Hello everybody and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports. And the Bulls are just beating the Lions 22 points to 15 to top the Currie Cup log, which means that they will have a home semi-final, and if they win that, a home final. The Lions trying to get a win right at the end, or a draw right at the end. If they had done so, they would have finished third, which means they would have moved and they would have traveled to Newlands to play against the Western Province. But as it stands, the semi-finals will be the Bulls versus the Lions at Loftus next weekend, as well as the Western Province versus the Sharks at Newlands. Those are the semi-finals there. Before we break down the game, please do subscribe to the channel, bottom right hand corner there, smash like as well, jump in the comments, let me know what you thought of the game, which really did ebb and flow. But the biggest problem with the Lions was discipline, because after a very good start where they got up to 9-0, Tiaan Swanepoel was kicking really well. He kicked well the entire game. You know, he slotted every single one of the kicks. And, you know, with a boot as well of 65 meters, he's becoming such an important player and an asset within that Lions side. But the problem is the Lions had the momentum, but to be fair, both sides didn't really look like threatening the try line too much, you know. It was one try in the end by Ambrose Pierre, which was, for me, pretty poor defending by Dan Creel. So it was a game, it was almost test match like, where it was penalties, a lot of penalties, very close, not much expansive rugby. And the Lions sort of had that after a very good opening 20 minutes, the Bulls came back in a big way, and they just put too much pressure on the Lions. And between that sort of 20-minute mark to about sort of 50-55 mark, I think the Lions conceded about 13 penalties. And you can't win a game when you're conceding 13 penalties in the space of 20 minutes. It just doesn't happen, and that's what allowed the Bulls back into the game. And then, as I said, a poor bit of a defending by Dan Creel on Ambrose Pierre, tackled him too high, allowed Ambrose Pierre to try and do a bit of a leg drive, and got over in the end, which was the difference. So I think, you know, you look at the game, and the Lions will take pride in the fact that they were close, but it wasn't a strong Bulls side. Particularly the backline. Only David Creel is a usual sort of starter for the Bulls within that backline. You know, Morné Steyn was on the bench, Ivan van Zyl on the bench, no Cornel Hendricks, no Stefan Gans, no Kurtley Arendse. You know, Travis Ishmael is currently injured. But this is what I'm saying. So it was, in many ways, a sort of second string Bulls, especially the backline. The pack was fairly fairly sort of the starting pack. You know, Jacques van Rooyen would have usually started, but that is because Lizo Mpoka has been injured. So yeah, and I think the Lions, there was just too many errors. Not only the discipline, but just when they did have the ball, looked very unimaginative on the attack. You know, set pieces, the scrum battle was very interesting. Some of the Lions winning penalties, Bulls winning some penalties. Still a lot of debate regarding sort of some of the penalties, how they went down, which way they were blown. Some of the commentators were sort of disagreeing with the calls. Always a bit of a contentious one within the game. But, you know, the Lions just, after a decent start, the Bulls sort of clicked into gear, and that's what they do so well. They keep it tight, and when you keep it tight against the Bulls, they will win the battle 9 times out of 10. You know, the rolling maul is very effective. Their scrums were a bit sketchy, but got a lot better. The lineouts were very effective. The Bulls, when it is tight, will beat you 9 times out of 10. You cannot play a tight test match like affair with a Jake White side, and that is what the Lions struggled today, is that they couldn't. You know, and even when they tried to sort of spread it, the Bulls rushed the fence, closed that space down immediately, and the Lions had no space to try and maneuver and try and play their sort of extravagant brand of rugby. For the Bulls, it was just a proper hard grunt performance where they earned the right all the time. They earned their points. They got into the Lions half, won a penalty. Chris Smith said thank you very much. You know, and that's where they were so good. The pack was very good. The back line, some very good defensive reads from both wings. The centers were very quiet, didn't have much to do all game, as did David Creel. Ambrose Pierre, I thought, kicked very well. The Lions are pretty poor under the high ball, something that they'll need to try and fix. Because I think if Jake White watching their game will sit there and think we're going to target Tiaan Swanepoel under the high ball next week all game, because that is an area that the Lions really did struggle with. And, you know, if the scrum is really operating, then, you know, you're kicking your head, you're forcing knock-ons, you're taking scrums, you're winning penalties. It all becomes a fairly predictable affair. So a lot to work for the Lions. For the Bulls, massive that in the midst of so many different COVID cases and so many disruptions within the union, that they can go on and put in a display like that, and that will give them huge confidence. They are definitely the overriding favourites for the Currie Cup at the moment. They've topped the log. They can go well top of the log if they beat the Pumas on Sunday, which I'm sure will be a second string side from Jake White. I expect a very similar backline, but a lot of changes in the forwards. But yeah, so in terms of some standout players, I thought that Chris Smith kicked very well. Tian Swanepoel kicked very well, but was quite a bit dodgy in the open areas. Markham Staden was everywhere as usual. Dwayne Vermeulen was a little bit subdued. Was very reliable off the kickoff and made some very good turnovers. Front rows were quite good. I thought worked very hard. Vince Tuka was very industrious for the Lions. Albert Lowe looked a lot better. Coming back from injury should take a while for him to sort of get into his rhythm. Ruan Nokia was is always very present. But yeah, it was a bit of a disappointing game in that we were hoping for something a little bit more high scoring maybe. Both sides have put in a lot of points in various games, but to be fair, both games against each other have been very close, and the Yuxke derby always provides a little bit of drama and is often very close. So I think we are setting up for what should be a fantastic semi-final next weekend. Let me know what you thought of the game down below. That is how it has ended. The semi-finals are locked. We still got 2 group games this weekend. The Western Province versus the Sharks game has been cancelled, so that will not happen this weekend, but there's still the Cheetahs versus the Griquas, as well as the Bulls versus the Pumas. Keep it locked on Freo Sports. My name is Steven, and I'll chat to you soon.